everybody. Desiree here, your host for the Modern Day Priestess Masterclass series. We've been having an incredible week together. So many activations and empowering messages coming through these incredible teachers who really devote their entire lives to being a channel, to be able to receive the downloads from the universe, to stay grounded and connected to, both their spirit, but also their physical body too. They're physicalizing, they're embodying the messages for you. And it's such a blessing and absolute honor to have all these incredible teachers coming in. And today we have a treat for you. We have an incredible woman who is going around the world, blessing so many souls and supporting them in up-leveling their lives in a really graceful but also rapid way. I think if you follow her advice, you'll find that your life changes for the better very quickly, but also elegantly and in this feminine way. So welcoming in today, Emily, the Angel Coach. Welcome, my dear.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so honored and grateful. And hello, everyone. I'm grateful and honored that I can have this space with you. So thank you, with all of you.
What does it mean to be an angel coach?
Well, great question. Since I was a little girl, I would hear guidance. I would be visited by beautiful beings of light, angels, masters, and just manifestations of love. And they actually gave me that title. They were encouraging me to pretty much step out into sharing with the world under the angel coach. As beyond that, as an angel coach, pretty much what I can celebrate that my role has been just to help people anchor more of their own understanding, their own clarity, their own, and I am audibly hearing the word source, like anchoring their own source, and their own alignment with themselves and in ways that pushes them into seeing the portals they can create when they're in that space of really alignment, and also I can celebrate that they encourage the angel coach just because I do see angels and I get to be blessed with connecting with people's angels, my angels, and just the beautiful embodiments that they bring, to us when they're connecting with us and how they're guiding us. So yeah.
That's amazing. How do angels appear? Do you see them? Do you hear them? You just mentioned an audible message. How does that work?
So it shows up in many different ways. For me personally, I can hear them, see them, feel them. Sometimes it's like a knowing, it's the many different ways that intuition comes through. But for all of us, the angels always find a way to communicate with us. And it's really the way that will help them. And I'm audibly being encouraged to say it differently. It's like whatever way is necessary for them to be accessible to us. So it's kind of like, the angels appear in ways that can help us in our own unique path and in our own unique understanding and our own unique connection. But for me personally, it's been in many different ways. As a child, it was very visual and audibly. Now where I'm at right now in life, again, it's kind of blossomed to include many different things in many different ways. Sometimes I even smell. I have like certain smells that are connected with certain angels. And I'm like, oh, it's connected to this or that, or, or they're helping with this or helping with that. So they show up in many different ways. But I think that that's the gift. Like we get to explore different forms of experiencing them.
Wow. And were you brought up in a religion at all? Because sometimes in religion, there's angels kind of woven in too, right?
So I grew up Catholic. I grew up in Puerto Rico. So the Catholic religion was very important, very sacred to the community, to the families, to our tradition. And even though that was what started, it's hard to say because I don't know if I really can identify that angels was discussed openly or shared about. But I was very blessed that I had a family that always made me feel safe with my stories and what I shared and my experiences, but also, and I don't know how to say it in English, so I apologize, but it's catecismo, which is like where they prepare you to get communion. And the teacher for that, there's many times that I would say stuff and things that I would see, and she just loved me through it and encouraged me and just encouraged me to continue to listen. She would just listen to what I would share. So from that perspective and from that, the way that religion was brought to me at that age in regards to my own experiences, it met me in a very beautiful way to help me feel safe in my sharing and understanding of it.
What advice do you have for women that didn't have that experience where they were told to shut that down? They were imagining things, they shouldn't do that, that's a sin. Do you have any wisdom for women that are kind of deprogramming from that and opening up to their spiritual gifts again?
That is a great question. It's a loaded one too, because it's very different for people. There's a lot of people that might have different versions of trauma around this. So I think it really depends on the individual. But outside of that, from just in a general way, one thing that I like to remind people is that no matter our history, no matter the past, no matter what has been, we're always every day and in every moment offered an opportunity to decide differently. And to really own once again who we are, that we're not our story, we're not our history, that yes, we can use that for what we're doing, with our work, with our passion, with our purpose, but that we are not that, we're much greater than our bodies. And I think it's just moving into that understanding that regardless of what the history has been or the trauma around religion and our intuition and what we can feel safe trusting and not trusting, it's like just deciding, like, I choose to own who I am. I choose to own that I am this beautiful presence of spirit, of light, of soul, that I can choose today to welcome that. And I know it may seem simpler me saying it than done, but I also think one of the things that they would tell me since early on as a little girl, and even now, it's like as humans, we overcomplicate things. And it's not that in any way they're not valuing our journey, and our overcomplication of things and how our human mind works. But I think it's also giving yourself permission that you are more than human. And yes, you can focus in the qualities and the personalities of the human and the story and the past and the history, that yes, but also, thank you, I love that. And what they're audibly saying, it's like anchoring and remembering our true birth. Our true birth goes outside the human body, and that our true birth really we've inherited all these gifts and all these abilities to see, hear, own, and create. And I think the more we lean into saying yes to that and accepting that we will see how life will guide us from there.
Yes, I love that. I love the permission you're giving us just to really feel in and feel into ourselves as more infinite beings than just, who we were as a child. Because if you go to a psychotherapy session and you're digging up all those wounds from childhood, that's kind of one type of therapy. But what I love when I'm with you is I feel like, yes, that's part of the human experience, but there's so much more too. It just feels more expansive and multi-dimensional and real.
And and they're reminding me, and I talked about this last night, and I know it's sometimes hard for a human mind to grasp the complexity and the non-complexity around this. But it's like owning and understanding that we are less matter than we are energy. We are less matter in physical human form than we are soul. And I think that somewhere along the lines, we've gotten this story like you got to protect and you got to do this and you got to do that. And it's like, yes, it's applicable for the human story, but the more that we lean into also owning that other part of us, it's like 90%. Even our physical form, our cells, the atoms, the energy that moves our body, that triggers the way the body works, our hearts, our minds, our brains. Like there's so much more that's orchestrating itself through our physical and energetic form. And the more we feed, love it. Thank you. They're saying the more we step into the allowing of witnessing of that, it makes it easier for us to own once again our birth, our true birth that goes outside just the physical human form.
That's beautiful. How do we do that if we're kind of out in the regular world or we're with our families? And I love the way you're talking to your angels, but if we did that in some places, like at the grocery store, I don't know, people might think we're a little crazy, a little out there, wacky. Maybe that doesn't matter. But what's your recommendation to kind of stay with that energetic experience, the energy over matter?
And I'm audibly hearing the word consistent. It's all about consistent. And I definitely don't encourage people to walk around and talk to your angels in front of people, or, of course, do what's comfortable for you. I'm a very open book with my own experience of life. And, I'm at the store and let's say there's a receipt that is at 444 or 33. I get excited. I do like to feed the awe in my life. And I like to be in that childlike state. One of the things that they audibly tell me is like, stay in your innocence, like stay in our innocence. And what does that mean? In our innocence, we are free of filters. In our innocence, we are free of expectations and excuses. We're free of the stories that would keep us from seeing more of what's in front of us. Like we just stay open. And I know with life and history and just even collective stuff, even right now, the way things are, it's like, it's a lot easier to choose shielding and choosing to hide, or choosing maybe to play it safe, or choosing to kind of guard, and like all these different things. But again, I feel like we get a choice every day to feed a story every day. And we get a choice to always identify the meaning to our life, to our story, to the opportunities that show up, to what we feel, to what's happening. Like we get this gift and this opportunity, and it is a sacred one. And how do you do that? And they audibly said commitments. It's about the commitments that we make for ourselves, the commitments that we choose to act upon daily. And, we talked about this again last night. I'm sorry I'm referring so much last night because it's so relevant to what we're talking. But one of the things that they said, like, what if you chose to commit for a week, a month, 3 months, or a year to these things, these practices? Like, okay, well, today I'm going to take a baby step, and today I'm going to talk. I'm going to ask the questions. And today I'm going to just allow myself to listen, subtly listen, loudly listen, like in whichever way it can show up, but just commit to that listening, that practice. Thank you. That practice of receiving. And even just something as simple, those that are listening, if you feel inspired, just say, okay, I commit for the next 10 days to receive, to truly, honestly receive. And the thing that's so beautiful, that receiving is not just about receiving guidance. It's about really, truly receiving the blessings, the opportunities, the way that life wants to support you. And I know Einstein has a quote, that one of the most powerful decisions we can make is it like, are we living in a friendly universe or not? And if we could own that we are living in a friendly universe, that life is for us, that life is trying to move in ways to lead us forward, it becomes easier to witness that. We do get what we focus on. And I know we hear that a lot, but when you truly can own it and practice and commit, you will see the result. And it's again, the commitment. And this, I speak to I include myself in this conversation. It's kind of like commitment is one of the hardest things sometimes when we're trying to move into seeing more of our true selves. And the reason that that's hard sometimes is because it's easier. It's easier to stay in the old. It's easier to stay in what's comfortable. It's easier to stay in what we know. It's easier to kind of get back in those shells because they fit. It's like the crabs, and like it kind of fits. Like, hey, this feels good. I'm going to go ahead and stay here a little longer. It's cozy. It's warm. But when we kind of have to step out of those old shells, there is a level of discomfort that takes place, and we have to commit to see it through. And the irony is that once we move past that initial discomfort, we can see how we get held along the way. But it's just getting past that initial discomfort. And a lot of people get lost in that initial discomfort. I'm not sure if I answered your question, because they're telling me that we did derail a little bit, but I got it. So they're reminding me that the question was like, how do you do that? And the answer goes back to the commitment. What are some of the commitments you can make to just let yourself receive and pay attention? Because one thing is, for me, I can't guarantee it, but one thing that I feel very confident in my knowing is that we always get responded to. We always get shown. We always get guided. We always get met. And we only get met wherever we're at. And wherever we're at, it's not about anybody else. It's not about our history. It's not about our story. It's not about our past. It's about where we choose and commit to and moving forward and allowing the experience of that.
I think you emulate that so beautifully. Just the commitment. You're completely committed to empowering others along their spiritual journey and finding their true self. And it's so inspiring to see what you do. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that helps you stay committed? Do you go running, or do you make sure you're doing some creative thing like cooking or being with your partner? What helps you to commit?
So one thing I want to just make sure I speak to, because you're audibly telling me that it's important. It's very important. I hear a lot of people and they'll be like, oh my gosh, your life must have been so easy. You might have like, this must be, it's like you hear guidance all the time. You've had this since little. It must be, and I want to just make sure that I'm very clear about this. I've had many challenges, and that includes one of my daughters is completely disabled, medically disabled. Most of my adult life was spent in hospitals and in ambulances and in critical units. Like that's also part of my story. And when I speak about this, this is not because I'm coming from a place like, oh, life was easy and I can own this. No, life has been very challenging in many different ways, but it's been those challenges that have helped me own this knowing. It is through those challenges that I got to see the power of decision, the power of commitment, the power of choice, and the power of owning ourselves as spirit and soul more than our bodies. It is those moments that help me to see that I, in my own willingness to lean into who I am and my daughter, who she was in spirit, that allowed things to change miraculously within her body, miraculously within my own body. I had a heart attack in 2019. And even during my heart attack, with meditation, and it's interesting because not even meditation, just taking time to move myself into spirit and into that space of, they want me to describe it as into that space of soul, that I really allowed my body and really to move through it with as much grace and ease as possible. I was in critical unit for 6 days, and doctors would come in and they're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, your body's showing one thing, but you look different. And it was because I took time to feed more of the 90% of who I was versus the 10%, which was my physical body. And again, my daughter has been my biggest teacher. So when I speak about this, is that I've been through the chaos, I've been through the pain, I've been through the challenges, and I've also seen that the power to choose changes everything. One of my favorite stories was when my daughter was wheeled into critical unit. She was blue, pretty much, she was gone. And all the doctors rushed into the unit. They were about to cut right here so that they can put a tube down to get her to breathe. And I remember feeling an overwhelming fear, and very overwhelming. If you have kids, you know how that is. And in that moment, what I call the Holy Spirit, the energy just entered the room and said, I get to choose. You could choose the chaos or you could choose the peace. I was literally audibly within this experience and environment asked, what do you choose, the chaos or the peace that's here? And I chose peace. I closed my eyes, touched my heart, and I said, I choose peace. And as soon as I said that, my daughter took a breath, and it was her body came back, her levels came up, and it's as if literally a miracle in front of our eyes took place. And it was that decision. So when I talk about these things and when I'm sharing this, I just want to make sure it's understood and very clear that it's not because it's been easy and all butterflies and rainbows and I'm like, oh yes, of course I can own this. No, it's that I've owned this through the chaos. So now that life looks different and she's doing better, I can honestly celebrate that my decision for that is what allowed that to take place. So I just wanted to speak to that because you're audibly encouraging me to make sure I make that very clear for anybody who's listening.
Thank you so much for sharing that so vulnerably. That's such a powerful story, and that kind of unshakable faith that just appears sometimes almost out of nowhere, from this fear to faith in a matter of moments and seconds. For women that are listening right now and they're thinking I need a miracle, I want a miracle in my life, do you have any wisdom around that? Can we call upon a miracle? Is that a matter of praying and asking the angels for support, or getting perspective on our situation, or how do we do that?
So it's interesting because it's not about what steps to take or, and what I'm audibly hearing and what I want to celebrate, because it's so true, is that it's about really owning that you're worthy enough to receive. Because that's the only thing that determines whether or not you receive it. And I say that loosely because even when you don't feel worthy, or that life is capable of offering you a miracle, like even when that is not there, it can happen. You know, there's a greater us that overrides the lesser us. There's always a greater us. There's always a greater us. And the reality is that there's a greater you that is leading you in this life in ways that you can't even conceive. And even when you can get in your own way with the doubts, with the insecurities, that's always going to show up. First of all, I want to speak to that. But secondly, like, how much are you owning your worthiness of receiving? Because miracles come every day. Miracles come every day. We just sometimes don't see them. And it's not that we're not good enough or we're bad or nothing like that. They come every day. Our breath is a miracle every day. So it's also perception, like, right? What's a miracle in our day? What's a miracle in my life? But the reality is a miracle comes to us every day, multiple times a day. And outside of that identification, so maybe even what's the bigger miracle? What is it that you need? First of all, identifying what is it that you need? What is your label of miracle? And I think that that's also very important. Sometimes we're like, I want a miracle, but we get the miracles, but we don't see them. So it's defining, well, what's that miracle look like to you? What would it look like to you? And then when that door opens and when that opportunity shows up, it's about committing to taking the step. Because that's another thing I see. It's like we ask for these miracles, we ask for these things, and then they show up in different ways. They just don't always show up the way we think they should show up, but they show up. And then it's about committing to the actions that lead us further into the miracle. But with that being said, again, and I know I'm going a little bit left and right here, but also just taking time, like, how much am I owning my worth of receiving? I am worthy of receiving. I am worthy of receiving. So it's like even having that conversation. I am worthy of receiving a miracle today. I am worthy of receiving a miracle today. And it's like saying those words, putting your hand on your heart, taking a deep breath and anchoring that into your reality, into your mind, into your heart, and into your own expectation of the day, that I am worthy. I am so worthy. And I'm not just talking about like, just I'm worthy. No, like I am so worthy of expecting and receiving, sorry, they're correcting me, of receiving a miracle today.
That's powerful. And we might not believe it, right? I'm thinking about some of the women I know, and even myself, like thinking of this ancestral energy coming through the bloodline, even of like feelings of like being abused and used as a woman, and our light being diminished, the feeling of the worthiness, like wanting to come out, but this repression of an inner light for so long. So I wonder, like, it might not even feel 100% believable at the beginning, but I could feel the power of what you're saying. It's almost like acting it in a way, or pretending it even, maybe at the beginning, until it feels possible.
One of the things, and I'm audibly, they're being so loud. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say it. I'm like, audibly, and then we're energy to that. So when I burp, I know it sounds weird, but when I burp, or even when there's energy moving, so there are people, as you're listening, if you notice things move, just enjoy it, right? Because there's stuff moving for all of us. You know, we are part of a greater sisterhood. We're part of a greater tribe. We're part of a greater soul family. And again, it's going back to that. Yes, we are part of the human family, but we're also part of a very beautiful cosmic soul family. And it's like owning and understanding that, again, that comes first. That overrides anything and everything that it comes from the human history. And I think that's part of the challenge, but it's part of our destiny to remember. And I feel like even just if you're here, this conversation, it's an opportunity, a chance to give you permission to own that other side of you that is much greater. It's much greater. And part of what they're audibly saying is like, what is your story? What is okay, they're telling me, thank you. What is your birth story? And I want to encourage everyone to do this fun exercise. Like, what is my true birth story? I'm not talking about when you first were born here on earth, or when you know, the birthday that you have, you know, like none of that. But like, what is your true birth story? And like, play with that idea of like, as a soul, as a star being, as a spirit, as a goddess, as a cosmic family, whatever resonates with you, you know, or that birth from heaven, or whatever resonates with your own comfort and understanding of source, energy, God, universe, higher self, whatever resonates with you. But what is that birth story from that access point, right? From being that vehicle of something greater. What is that story? What is your birth story from there? And from that birth story, what are some of your qualities? What are some of your abilities? What are some of your birthrights? What are some of the things that are in soul? Thank you. It's like they're audibly telling me, it's like inclining, encouraging you each to lean into more of the real you. And this is what's hard sometimes to understand, is that we're able to touch, right? The physical, we're able to very easily identify ourselves and link to ourselves to the physical. But again, it's like, what story could you commit to creating, feeding, anchoring that helps you to remember again that you're part of a bigger source? And I know I'm repeating this, but that's actually what they keep telling me. It's like they are actually encouraging everyone, if you're comfortable, to do this exercise and just say, what's my true birth story? What's my true birth story? And I am being shown this beautiful vision of the angels just surrounding you. Like, if anybody agrees to and is open to it, like, they're letting you know, like, and you do this exercise, we're going to surround you with a choir of angels, and that we're going to feed this understanding. And I'm changing my voice a little, I don't know if you hear that, but it's like they're going to move, and they're going to go ahead and embrace each of us, and owning more of what this is. And it's about like taking a breath, and as best as you can, quieting the mind and going into your heart and say, like, regardless of yesterday, regardless of the last hour, like, what right now can I celebrate as my birth story outside of the human self? Right? What is that? What does that look like? And what can I commit daily to remind myself? And that could be a simple sentence. What can I commit daily to remind myself daily of who I am? You know, and they keep showing me, which is not typical, I don't usually do this, but they're showing me the vision. So I would get this vision over and over again. And in the vision, I would get this diamond over my head. And they would show me a vision of me as a human, but not human, like my spirit. And I had a painting that got commissioned for it, but they keep showing me the vision of that. So maybe I can show it to you later, or put it somewhere in the thing, or I can show you now, but I would have to walk you through the house. I don't know if we want to do that right now. But they're literally showing me that vision, right? And actually, are you okay if I walk and show it to you?
I think that would be fun. Take us on a little tour and show us the painting. I love it.
So part of why they're saying is, as you're creating this new birth story, it's like, also give it an image. Find an image that helps you anchor the real you, right? And I'm talking about like moving outside the you that you think you've known, but like the new, they don't want me to say the word new, the real you. So this is my painting. Mm-hmm. So part of the message within this painting, and what I kept drawing, of course, this is a better drawing than what I sketched out, but he drew the diamond and then the energy, and how so much of, even though I am in physical, I'm outside the physical, right? The energy moves and it morphs into different colors and different experiences. And then within each of the centers, he drew something that represented what looks like the universe. So it's like anchoring all those aspects within myself, that I am part of something greater. And this is not out of ego. This is not out of like, oh, I'm better than, nothing like that. But for us to understand that, again, I love that. Thank you. And what they're saying, it's like part of our destiny. Like, this is like part of, like, if you really own it in this way, it's part of our purpose. It's part of our destiny to come back home, to come back home, to come back home into owning ourselves, to come back home. So on some level, like, play with the idea that we've been living in somebody else's guest house, in our thoughts, in our emotions, you know. And one of the things that they said yesterday in yesterday's call, and they're telling me to repeat that part, is that, oh my gosh, I got to make sure I find it, but you may have a question. So I want to make sure I honor but
No,
Like
that's great. I love it. Anything you want to share?
and thank you. The power of living outside of, okay, so this is what they said. What else is possible when the past doesn't get involved? When we're bold enough, when bold becomes the conversation. And what they were saying, and they described it this way, like we all know someone who, when they get involved in our lives or get involved in a situation, somehow they throw a wrench in there. Like we all know that somebody, right? That you're like, oh gosh, I definitely don't want them to get involved, you know? Well, that's what they're talking about. It's like, what else is possible when the past doesn't get involved? Like what else is possible with your today? What else is possible with how you feel within your body, with what you can say yes to, with what you can create, what you can lean into, what you can heal when the past doesn't get involved. So yeah.
Ooh, I feel that. Yeah, it's just a feeling like just yeah, don't even bring it in, right? It's done, and we get to move forward and evolve and be yeah, embody that birthright. Is that what you're doing? Is the angel coach? Is that your birthright? Is that the expression of that?
Yes and no, and this is why. Labels and identities can be very dangerous, right? They can. Because on some level, we are constantly in evolution. So when the angel coach was given to me, they did tell me that there will come a time where it would morph and it would change as I kept growing, as I kept remembering who I was, and as I kept tuning more into my own understanding. And I'm still using the angel coach, but we've also morphed. I have created, now the awakened superhuman, which is very free of the idea of me just being the idea of just the angel coach, right? That on some level we are superhumans and we're all waking up into who we are and what we are. And it's not even, thank you. And what they're audibly saying, it's like labels are secondary, right? Labels are just used to give the human mind an understanding of what's possible, of identities, of pointers and things like that. But the reality is we're way more than our labels. We're way more than our names. We're way more than our birthday. We're way more than our birth sign. Like we're way more than all those things. And right now, collectively, more than ever, and this is what's so exciting, especially that you're doing this now, is that more than ever, we're coming together to really own this mastery. Like this is a mastery we're not going to miss. We're not going to miss. And if you're here and this beautiful thing that you're leaning and you're leading and you're learning from your speakers and they're learning from, like, if you're listening to these conversations, it's because you're destined to arrive back home. You're destined to join this movement that's taking place for all of us and being led by all of us. And it's a time of mastery. It's a time of mastery and understanding that, again, we're more. There's more to our story. There's more to what we've been told. There's more to our history. And we're being given the opportunity to remember more than ever, more than ever. And I think when you take time to lean into conversations like this and learn more and seek more of these doors open. And I'd like to call it portals, like more of these portals open up for us to see, perceive, and receive. And from there, we remember our role as creators. We remember our roles as sisters. We remember our roles as leaders and soul and beautiful beings of light, yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom and this transmission today. I really feel blessed just to be receiving myself in this moment and to hear your words and to have these energies and this superhuman movement, I would say you're creating, being shared with us today, and feel that we can all be part of that movement, and we are. And as you said, if you're here today watching, then you are part of that movement and you get to flow with it and not resist it, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I'm going to speak to something really quick. So the last few months, it's maybe more than a few months, but So something that's been happening, it's been so beautiful, is that I keep getting visited by these beautiful embodiments of the feminine, sacred feminine. And they keep revealing different aspects of the feminine. And we're so blessed to be women right now. We're so blessed to be in our feminine. We're so blessed to really be part of a time in which we're being asked to be more of ourselves and to really lean into the gifts of the feminine, because we have something very sacred to deliver. And the more each of us as women own this within ourselves, the more we empower what we've decided as sisters to come together, build, create, and lead. And I just want to really encourage all women listening, that there's a lot that's happening that goes outside of the physical human perception for all of us. And if you could take time every day for 10 minutes to just say, I choose to wake up that feminine, sacred feminine within me. You don't have to know how, you don't have to try to figure out the 1, 2, 3 steps, just make that decision. And from there, just owning that you're worthy enough to be shown. You don't even have to own your worthiness, but just know that you'll be shown, and it'll show up. It's going to show up because it's part of what's happening outside of what our human logic can create and give direction to. It's happening. But I'm just being shown to make that invitation for all of us as women, because it's that time.
I feel that too. And I think it brings so many blessings. I think you and I would both express that waking up the divine feminine within and embodying it in our lives just brings so much abundance and self-worth and satisfaction. And then when you have that, you just want to kind of shout it from the rooftops and be like, hey everybody, like just do this little thing and your life is just going to start to blossom and open, and you'll awaken in such a beautifully held way that you don't want to miss it. Like, I don't want you to miss the boat.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for reminding us all of that today, and for all your wisdom and your tour through your house to your painting. That's an incredible that was really fun. I really appreciate it. And we're going to be sharing your gift below and your link. I really want everyone to dive into Emily's work. It's incredible. Find out more about this superhuman movement that she's leading in her angel coaching and all of the blessings that she's bringing forth into the world. To go over and check that out and share with her what's benefiting you, and her Instagram and her Facebook groups and all of that. Any final words of wisdom as we sign off, my dear? You've already given us so much.
Well, one of the things I'm audibly hearing, and you said it, I love that you asked that question. They're audibly telling me to just say, expect the miracle. Expect the miracle. So I want to just encourage everyone, whatever time you're listening to this, doesn't matter if it's Friday, Sunday, Monday, doesn't matter what day of the week. I want you to just know that if you're hearing my voice, I want you to expect a miracle. And I want you to just decide and commit that you're worthy enough to receive it. And when it finds its way to you, just smile and say thank you, and just say, I receive it, because it's going to come. They're audibly saying, expect the miracle. So much love to each of you, and beyond grateful for this opportunity. And thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Take care, and look forward to connecting with you again sometime soon.